It's the final word daily, World Cup Daily, the 24th day of this tournament. And what a day it is. Group 1 in the Super 8s. India up against Australia at St Lucia. I've got Geoff Lemon with me for Westfield London, Westfield Stratford City. He's going to sum it up in 30 seconds to begin. Hello.
Hello, it was all about Rohit Sharma. He was mad. Maybe he was mad from last October. Maybe he was mad for other reasons. Either way, he made 92 from 41 balls, and that was pretty much the game, even though Australia did well to claw things back in the second half of the innings. They kept India to 205, which seemed pretty good in the circumstances. Surya Mayadav made a few. And then Travis Head made a go of it with Mitchell Marsh for a bit and Glenn Maxwell for a bit. After about 11 overs, they were up with the rate at 10 and over. Looked like they might do it. But Maxwell got out and then Travis Head got out trying to push the pace against Bumrah. They couldn't get anywhere near it really in the end. 20-something, 25 runs, 24 runs short, 181 for 7.
Yes, the margin's 24 runs after Rohit Sharma, the captain, made 92 from 41 off the top, 8 sixes along the way. And Head, as you say, did his best to reply, 76 from 43, gave it a red-hot go, but they needed everything to go right in pursuit of a score like that St Lucia with 206 set. It's not to be. Let's start with Rohit. I mean, it was instructive hearing him talk after their win over Bangladesh a few days ago now, where he basically said, I am willing to sacrifice the number of runs I make for the pace in which I make them. So I might make 20 off 10 and I'm okay with that bargain so long as I'm scoring quickly. So it wasn't, with the exception of one outstanding, immense extra cover drive, it wasn't Rohit playing in the way that we purr when he's, say, playing test cricket or one-day cricket. It wasn't that mode. In some respects, he was just trying to hit every ball for six. There was some wild slogs in all of that too, but it was strategic. I actually think it was selfless because it was sacrificing the aesthetic that he's so well known for trying to keep the run rate as high as possible to try and eliminate Australia. Doesn't always play out that way, doesn't always work, but when it does come off, you twat 92 from 41 and you put your team so far ahead of the game that even though they had a negative split, and Australia dragged it back pretty well in the circumstances in the second 10 overs of their fielding innings. But yeah, this suddenly felt like we were actually at the IPL. For the first time in the whole tournament, it felt like we were watching an IPL game, and that suited India down to the ground. And
they might well have knocked Australia out of the tournament in so doing, which would make him pretty satisfied as well. You know, he was really hurt by that World Cup final loss. That opportunity, isn't going to come around again, particularly the home World Cup final. Unlikely that he'll be at another 50-over World Cup, given he's 37, I think, at this point. And it's interesting because a lot of spectators watching the likes of Kohli and Rohit have got stuck into them over the last few years in IPL terms for not scoring quickly enough. It seems it's a thing that you hear a lot. I don't necessarily think it's a supportable accusation, but it is an accusation that gets made. And if you're an analyst in T20 cricket, you're at the moment in the modern era, you're supposed to be pushing that idea that you need that short bursts of scoring as quickly as possible are more useful. And so in some ways, it felt like a come to Jesus moment for Rohit after that Bangladesh game where he's like, you know what? I finally fully embraced this. I don't know if he didn't fully embrace it before. I think like that might be unfair to say that he didn't. That's the perception. Whether that's correct or not, I don't know. But this is him very explicitly acting out, doing it differently, and particularly taking on Stark. We saw Mitchell Stark go for some expensive bursts in the IPL, but he didn't quite get it right. And Rohit said they were strategic about the way the wind was blowing. This ground at St Lucia, every game we've commentated here, there's a roaring gale from east to west. And so that's into the leg side for the way he started facing against Stark. So Stark's trying to bowl the ball across him, wide across him, so that he can't hit to the leg side. But particularly the one that he overcooked, Stark overpitches one a little bit trying that, and Rohit hits it into the wind and still hits it for six over mid-wicket, and then goes the other way as much as he can and goes over cover and so on with the breeze. And then when he's at the other end, he doesn't do that much because Josh Hazlewood somehow manages to get through his 4 overs. Was it 1 for 14 that he finished up with? Barely conceded a run in this extraordinary spell, but also gets Virat Kohli out for a duck.
Yeah, there was a 2-end game going on when he got Kohli out. I mean, I put up my usual kind of playful tweet about, 50 from 42 in a nice centre wicket practice for Kohli. Stat pad of 50 would have been great for Australia in a way because they keep Rishabh Pant off the field for longer. What I was really saying there was that India going in 5th gear the whole time was the best chance to destroy Australia and where they were at the tournament. I was talking. I'm quite ill at the moment. I've got the flu. I've got a fever, and I'm struggling my tits off to even be on the podcast at the moment. It's been a long 24 hours.
Okay.
But when talking to my daughter, Winnie, on the couch last night about something or another, she asked me what bombastic means. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting thing for a 4-year-old to ask. And this was bombastic in a way that, like, I think of Rohit Sharma. I think about the way, like, say, Phil Walker, the editor of Wisden Cricket Monthly, speaks of him as this stylist, as this purist, as no one he enjoys watching more in the game than he gets going. But he's talking about the cover drive, the straight drive, the pull shot, etc. We've seen Rohit play a million of those innings, 600 plus sixes in his career. I don't think we've rarely seen him so off the leash.
Yep.
That was bombastic. That was, for me at least, a fever dream for the first 10 overs or so. The whole thing lined up beautifully. But yeah, it's the kind of thing that he has now done, made a statement, and it'll be absolutely fascinating to see the way they go about it the next time around. Remember, the semi-final they played in 2022, they got what looked to be a pretty good 160-odd against England, a half-century from Kohli in that, maybe not quite quick enough to come back to our earlier point. I can't remember. England chased it down in 15 overs. If they get England in the elimination stage, they should be thinking, we got to give ourselves every chance of getting 200 again, and that will necessitate Rohit playing just this way, because Kohli's not going to. So if you're gaming it out to make the most of your power play, it's got to be Rohit doing this role and letting Kohli play the way Kohli plays, which most of the time is brilliant. I don't dispute your point from earlier, but it is he doesn't do that bit where he just slogs every ball. I don't think that's ever going to be in his repertoire.
Right. I mean, Rohit has a T20 international century from 35 balls before this.
Yes.
He's got the 3 double hundreds in one-day cricket where he, there are some ridiculous spells of scoring. So he does have these bursts where he goes beast mode and just tears attacks apart. We just haven't seen him do it for a little while. So it was kind of a treat, really, just to watch how relentless he was going at it today. They will definitely play England, by the way. So India have finished top of the group. They can't be dislodged, and England have finished second. So that's done. That's locked in. The only thing still outstanding is who comes second in the group, because Australia could get there if Afghanistan lose to Bangladesh tonight. Afghanistan will get there if they beat Bangladesh tonight. And in theory, Bangladesh could get there if they absolutely destroy Afghanistan tonight. I don't think it's realistic they can overturn that net run rate, but they could, if it was some sort of, I don't know, but I'm not sure what the numbers are.
I've got the numbers.
So yeah, tell me.
I've got them. I've been talking to Ben Jones throughout the game. Ben
Great.
Jones and I love texting all the way through Australia-India games, just something we do. And he's told me it's 61 is the magic number. So if Bangladesh turn over Afghanistan by 61 runs, they go through.
Or
with
chase.
I mean,
do we know?
Of course,
do we know the speed of chase?
Yeah, he just gave me that for the time being to get me going for the podcast. But like the idea being that Bangladesh could get there on one win, Afghanistan could get there on one win if they were to
lose narrowly.
But lose narrowly, that's correct. Although even that doesn't work, does it?
No, I think it
Afghanistan
does
needs to win,
because it'll average out. It'd bring their net run rate slightly higher if they have a really narrow loss.
Okay.
Okay,
but basically, I think I'm right in saying Afghanistan almost certainly have to win, whereas Australia and Bangladesh can get through on one win theoretically if they overtake Afghanistan net run rate. It's all completely ridiculous, by the way. As Mitch Marsh said himself at the post-game press conference, they're not qualifying, right? Like, let's it's not happening. There is no way in the world Bangladesh will win by. They might.
They might
win. Oh, am I really going to say that? I feel like the Bangladesh team that I know and love and have followed so closely over the last 10 years. This is not the kind of game they win.
Oh, yeah.
And Afghanistan look a team inspired the way they accounted for Australia a couple of days ago. This is the best opportunity they will ever get to make a World Cup semi-final, at least in this generation, with this group of players like Mohammad Nabi, who have taken them from 120th in the world, and Nabi's played 40 nations and all the rest of it. They're not going to let this slip through their fingers tonight, make no mistake.
Well, I reckon this is exactly the kind of game Bangladesh could win, because they win pointless games when it's too late. That has been something that they've been able to do. So they could probably win it, probably not by 60 to go through themselves, but maybe by 20 to notch a win that only ends up ruining Afghanistan's day. It could happen. Afghanistan, I don't think, are a reliable team yet. I think they're a team that at their best are really good, but we see them get pants pretty regularly as well. So could go either way.
Low key other topic here, but this is the last time we're going to see a lot of these Australian players in a World Cup game, and a lot of them play together. There will be wholesale changes. There would have been anyway. Had they won, there would have been wholesale changes. They're not setting up to win the Champions Trophy. Whisper it like that is a stepping stone as to what could happen in the other World Cups that follow in the 2 years hence. So I think that, or the 2 years that follow. Sorry. So you've got you look through it. We know Warner won't be playing T20 internationals anymore. Maxi probably will because he's nationally contracted, but how long for? I don't expect Matthew Wade will. The three fast bowlers, they've done a shift here. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that they'll be pretty happy with, take it as a whole, they'll be quite proud of what they've done together. They'll have a beer tonight at some point and they'll be able to reflect on the World Cups they've won together in 2021 as the big three, in 2023 against all the odds at Ahmedabad Stadium as the big three, that Stark was there with Hazelwood and indeed Pat Cummins as 12th man at the 2015 50-over World Cup final at the MCG as well. They have been through a lot together in white ball cricket. I don't expect they'll play again. Maybe Hazelwood will because he's become such a potent force with the new ball, so frugal, so hard to get away. I mean, why wouldn't Hazelwood want to play 2 more years? But my instinct is this is probably the point where they do that tweaking where you start investing more time in Nathan Ellis. Do we find out whether Spencer Johnson can be the next Mitchell Stark? And on the other side of it, you've got players like Marcus Stoinis. So, I saw the way he threw his head back when he was dismissed tonight. He's already not playing one-day cricket. Could that be the end for him as well as he's played in this tournament? I expect Zampa will keep going. He's been fabulous in this tournament, but he'll lose a couple of his mates. It's like a team breaking up, having achieved so much together. That's worth reflecting on in this loss.
Yeah, and it's worth reflecting on the fact that they got battered this morning. I think it's the kind of thing that a team would shut down if you said this, but I don't think it could necessarily go with that observation that they finished a game at 1 o'clock in the morning the other night. Would have got back to the hotel probably at 2 and then travelled the next day and then played a 10:30 a.m. game the next day. And I know, a bunch of other teams have had similar schedules like this. The scheduling of this tournament has been poor. You're in a complicated region of the world. The travel between the islands is difficult a lot of the time. There are often delays. There are often things, like the fact that it's a 15-minute flight from St Vincent to here, but then you drive 2.5 hours across the island in a minibus because you can't fly to the airport that's actually close to where the cricket ground is. You're flying to the other airport instead. Things like that, where I just suspected after seeing that Afghanistan game the other night, I thought this Australian team will struggle to get up to be sort of mentally fresh enough to take on this game. And it felt like after about the 10th over, they sort of got the hang of it. So Mitchell Stark comes back after being monstered. I think it was 34 off his first 2 overs. He manages to bowl Rohit Sharma with 1 off the inside edge. Surya Kumar Yadav's batting beautifully, timing the pants off at 31 off 16 balls. He gets caught behind off Stark. So again, Stark sort of managing to come back. Shivam Dubé never quite got going, but he slots Zampa for a massive 6 and ends up with 28 off 22. And Hardik Pandya batted a few at the end, 27 off 17. So everyone got mashed except for Hazelwood. The way that stands out, 1 for 14 off 4, compared to 2 for 45 for Stark, none for 48 for Cummins, none for 41 from Zampa, and 2 for 56 from Stoinis. And can I throw in just how daft I thought it was just to bowl the 5 bowlers and bowl their 4 each when everybody was getting smashed, especially Stoinis. And Stoinis, he picked up, so I think he went for 17 off his first over and then gets a wicket off the last ball, fortuitously. But they bring him back to bowl right at the death when he's been absolutely pumped. And what happens? He gets pumped again. And there was it just seemed very uncreative from Mitch Marsh to not go at some point, well, let's get an over in from Maxwell or an over in from Tim David or something to break it up, to give me an option to be able to not have to go. Like when you're going at 10 and over and 5 bowlers have bowled 4 overs each, that seems like bad captaincy to me.
Yeah, it's a perennial challenge of when you use your spinners when your quicks have gone around. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be the only person that's captained teams that has felt this way. Like, fuck, what do we do? The seamers are going. If I bring a spinner on now, they're on a hiding to nothing. I think if they weren't batted so badly, Maxwell probably would have bowled over in the power play, as he's done a number of times in the tournament. But yeah, I kind of felt for Mitch Marsh, but agree with you that into the pitch started to work in the back 10. Pace off was working. And they did record a pretty substantial negative split. The drop catch, though. Hardik Pandya being put down on the second ball of the 17th over. Yeah. That was the captain. They might have kept him to 190, 195 if he takes that. Yeah. Hardik just gets away a wee bit towards the end. Marsh is the beneficiary of a drop catch when he is batting. We'll talk a little bit about Australia's chase in a sec, but Marsh ended up getting 37 from 28, cleared the ropes a couple of times. Never looked completely fluent with the exception of 1 over. But still, there was the energy that this Australian side have, for whatever reason, started to lose their mojo a little bit in the field. They were so clinical early in the tournament. Remember the way they fielded against England? Yeah. They were immaculate. Yeah. To go from where they were against England only 3 weeks ago, whatever it worked out to be. And it did start with the Scotland game. And there'll be a lot of people who want to jump on that and talk about Josh Hazelwood. belling the cat about what they might do and gaming the situation and the cricket gods and all the rest of it. Fine. Whatever will be, will be. Like England were 1 foot out of this World Cup a number of times. They got on a hot streak at the perfect time. They had things break their way, and Scotland weren't able to seal the deal when they had Australia on the rack. Scotland should have beaten Australia based on where they were in that chase a couple of weeks ago, a week and a half ago. So, yeah, look, it's neither here nor there now. It's just a debating point, and I'm sure the football fans with football flags in their Twitter bios will have an absolute day out on this over the next few days. But that's fine. The key thing I think from Australia's perspective is that they did taper off. You want to be at your best when you reach a World Cup final. You don't want to be tapering off, and that's actually what we saw happen, with the exception of like their batting, which Travis Head, we haven't even remarked upon how well he played tonight. And Maxwell played his role before getting out. I have to say, I did kind of say it. I said to a couple of mates, Maxwell being bowled by Kuldeep's not a bad shout right now, the way he was in the World Cup at Chennai last year. Different to that one. He went back this time, got bowled coming forward this time, but that's okay. He did put a dent in it. He did set it up for the finishers. They've got Stoinis, David, Wade, who are theoretically three finishers. Maxwell's role is a little bit misunderstood as a T20 player. People assume he's the guy that goes mental in the last 5 overs, and sometimes he does. But his role at the IPL, he's been very much defined where he plays his best or he plays his most important T20 franchise cricket is between over 6 and 14 against the spin. So, if he's not trying to hit Kuldeep for 6, he's not really playing his role. It just doesn't come off, and so be it.
Yeah.
It's fun while it lasted. And then they need Stoinis or David to work, and neither of them do.
Yeah, it felt... That was the bit where it felt like it was on. So Warner's out early. He edges Arshdeep Singh to slip, probably his last innings for Australia, depending what happens later today. He's out for 6. They got, 8 runs off the first 11 balls or something? And even at that point, I thought, like, this is getting away from them here. Like, you had to do what Rohit Sharma did. You had to make a statement early and get something away early. It didn't quite work. But Mitchell Marsh comes in. He does start to get going. He hits those couple of sixes, and when he gets out, it's to an absolute the Mitchell Marsh situation was a screamer. Akshar Patel, one-handed, deep square leg. I've rarely seen a shot hit better than that one from Marsh. Goes back, pull shot, short ball, flat, like probably no more than 3 meters off the pitch, and somehow it's just as it's going over Akshar Patel's head, he gets a hand up and hangs on. But that brings Glenn Maxwell in, and there's the point. So he takes 17 off and over from Jadeja, and that's where Australia are ahead of the required rate at that point. They come in needing 10 and a bit. They're up to like 10.8 or something at that stage. They're looking pretty good. And then it's Kuldeep, right?
Winviz.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, just for this, Winviz had them. I mean, the ball before Maxwell was dismissed, they're at 45%. And I thought that was a bit dovish. I thought if it's Maxwell and Head, remember that Head took down Bumrah in 1 over, granted. But Head took down Bumrah, which is virtually impossible to do to any batter in the world in any format when he's bowling as well as he's done over the last 3 weeks. And Head achieves that, and he's still going strong. Might be starved a bit of strike outside the power play. I felt like Head didn't face enough balls after over 5, over 6, but still, with Head there was a chance. With Maxwell there was absolutely a chance, but he probably is dismissed in over number 14. Maxwell gets it to over number 16. Then you've got, it's within like striking distance of one of those 3 finishes. But when he gets out, there's still about 80 odd runs to get. It's just too much to ask of guys trying to hit 6s most balls.
Yeah, it was that little bit too far away, right? I was thinking the same thing watching on live, and I was thinking the same thing watching Kuldeep bowling to him. I thought, because he took down Jadeja so nicely, they immediately get Jadeja off, bring Akshar Patel on in his place, and they've got Kuldeep from the other end. And so there's an over, and Head's been going really nicely through backward point. He's gone well over the leg side. He's hit 6s over the leg side as well, and went and gone down the ground well. He's facing Kuldeep, and they get through 5 quiet deliveries, and he manages to hit a 6 off the last ball of the innings. But even that felt like dragging something back from a good over. So that over goes for 9, which is below what they need. And then Akshar bowls an over that goes for 3. And I just thought, here, I'm like, this is the moment. I remember I was saying to whoever was sitting next to me, like, Kuldeep to Maxwell in the next over, this is the game, basically. And that's the one where he ends up getting him out. And and suddenly from sort of being at about 11, they're dipping back down to 9, 9.5, and the asking rate's going up to 11, up to 12. Kuldeep Yadav at the moment is just one of the most important bowlers in the side. In some ways, he felt more important than Bumrah today because, Bumrah got hit for 14 off and over, but that very rarely happens. He had a quiet one before that. He came back and bowled really well towards the end, although Pat Cummins hit him for 1-6, which somehow Cummins seems to be able to hit Bumrah for 6, which most people can't do. But otherwise Bumrah has a good day, but Kuldeep's the one where it feels like this is who the game is riding on. This is who every delivery from him feels dangerous. And he's able to clamp down on that scoring and then get Maxwell out, having already got Marsh out, albeit a little bit luckily there, and just make it that bit too difficult so that when Bumrah comes back in the 16th, 17th, whatever it was, Head's got to go hard at him at that point. It's too early, and he hits one up in the air, and that's pretty much the game.
Yeah, 17th over. I wrote a tweet out when Kuldeep was bowling his second over. 1 ball to go in it. I think he'd gone for about 8 runs in 11 deliveries by that point. They've gotten this to the point where they can play Kuldeep on his merits for the last couple of overs and they can make up the run rate elsewhere. Next ball, Mitch Marsh out. We do watch this team a lot.
Yeah.
I just felt it.
Yep.
Same with that Maxwell dismissal. I just feel in tune with the way he's going to get out sometimes. And getting bowled by Kuldeep, I suppose it was going to happen. And just one last thing on India and their bowling group. We talked about it in some depth when they beat Bangladesh a couple of days ago. I know Jadeja only bowls 1 over today, but I just sense that it's the spinners. You touched on it already. Akshar Patel bowled some excellent deliveries today. In fact, he went for 3 the over before Kuldeep gets Maxwell with the first ball of his next over. Those two things are not unrelated, not at all. So Akshar's playing a role inside the power play. 1 for 21. He was the best in terms of the economy rate other than Kuldeep Yadav today. I know Jadeja goes around, but I still feel like with those 3 seamers, including Bumrah, and 3 spinners, they are nigh on impossible to beat. Geoff, I feel like we've hit that point. I think we should take a break and we should go to the Final Word Hall of Fame. The Final Word Hall of Fame is brought to you by Westfield London, Westfield Stratford City. Right, here we go. Have you ever spotted a shirt in your wardrobe and thought, I'm too sexy for that? Or used your NordVPN subscription to look up flights to Milan, New York, or Japan and thought, I'm too sexy for those places? If these are the sorts of things that you are regularly thinking, then you either need to seek professional mental health support or come down to Westfield London this Saturday. Now, I'll come back to this Saturday at Westfield London for our elite model management casting event. Here we fucking go. If you are, or someone you know, is between ages 14 and 20 and interested in professionally perpetuating society's beauty standards, then this could be your chance to launch your career on the catwalk. Elite Model Management represents some of the biggest names in fashion, including Kendall Jenner, not to be confused with the part-time host of Jeopardy, Ken Jennings. Westfield London, did you ever think that maybe there's more to life than being really, really, really ridiculously good looking? What's that? 6'5", trust fund, blue eyes, the TikTok thing. Anyway, I'm thinking that energy when it comes to this read. I did a TikTok thing on here yesterday as well, which went pretty well. So the Hall of Fame, before we get into this, Geoff, I've been working with Westfield today behind the scenes. We are announcing the winner of the major prize for Saturday tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning, UK time. If you're listening to this podcast, believe me, it's a piece of piss. Jump on the app, download the app, and all you need to do is answer the question from last week's weekly show. Whisper it. I don't even think you need to do that. Just download the app, and you can be in the running to be pulled out and have your ultimate Sixers experience with 3 of your mates this week when we're doing our watch-along of the final at Westfield London at Sixers with my aforementioned daughter, Winnie, who you can tell her all about what being bombastic is.
Beautiful.
Westfield London, Westfield Stratford City.
Beautiful.
Come along on Saturday and get your name in the draw. Do it now. This is your last chance to win. I don't know. He'll look after you. She looks after people.
It was a Zoolander reference. That's what you're looking for. They're really, really ridiculously good looking. But that may have got over your head. But clearly at nursery, Winnie has been listening to Shaggy, Mr. Bombastic, which, why not? Why not bring it into to kindergartens around the world? So Hall of Fame, what do we go to? I think I'm going to reference the logistics that are going on to get these teams to the semi-final. So the fact that until this result came in, now 3 of the 4 teams know where they're going. The 4th team know if they make it, they know where they're going. But nobody knew where they were going because they didn't know if India would finish top of the group or not. So if India finished top of the group, then that would mean that they would be playing the second team from the other group, which would be England. If they finished second in the group, they'd be playing South Africa, but they'd be playing either of those teams in Guyana. So either of England or South Africa were sitting there this morning not knowing who's going to Guyana. they also weren't knowing how they were actually going to get there or how they were going to get out. So it's possible to get to Guyana, but it's not possible to get out of there to the final in Barbados in time, because that's the second of the semi-finals. So that's also going on. There are like charter flights. The Indian team, they're on a charter flight out of here tonight. Their entourage is massive. It's like 40-something people or something that they're trying to get over to Guyana with all of their luggage and all of their other carry-on, and trying to leave the ground just now and trying to get back to the part of town where we're staying. There was just this vast sort of cavalcade of minibuses, like literally about 60 minibuses, or maybe 40, all pulled up in a row outside this hotel where the Indian team is staying, blocking off the road entirely just to try to get all of their stuff out. And I think they've gone straight from the ground to the airport. So it is an extraordinary, complicated, convoluted situation that the Indian team have been going through, and that every other team's going through, because they don't know who's going where, who is going to play where. And with about 24 hours notice, we finally know what's going on.
Complicated yet further by the football fans singing in the background. I'm not sure whether it'll make the final edit there, Geoff, when we run this audio through the AI machine, but still, there seems to be all happening there in St Lucia at the moment. So, yeah, I agree. Like, just on that, it sucks. I get when you have a semi-final set up for the host, like India did last year. I get that. That's fine. That's a reasonable proposition. It was the same in 2021. Had Australia made it through to 2022. Had Australia made it through to the semi-final, it was preordained where they would play. It shouldn't be a side that's not a co-host of this tournament getting to put, in this case, South Africa and England into a position where they can't fly until today's game's finished. I mean, you can imagine a scenario where they wouldn't have known who's topping this group until about 1 o'clock tomorrow morning. Yep. Because Bangladesh, Afghanistan could be germane to who finishes top if the group played out differently. And then what do? At least South Africa can get out of there now, but you don't want them. It's not right.
Yeah.
It's never been right, and it never will be right, but that's the world we live in. A couple of things from me. I said earlier that I think at some point this Australian team, once they're officially knocked out, they'll have a chance to sit around and reflect. I really like that senior players moment today when Marcus Stoinis saw something and he yelled out to Mitchell Starc mid-over. He said, "I've seen something. Please do this thing." Now, it turned out to be, it wasn't revelatory. It was Surya Kumar Yadav bowl it way outside the off stump, pace off the ball. Next ball, SKY edges it through to the gloves of Wade and he's dismissed. But it was the way that Starc acknowledged doing this. Junior players typically don't have the confidence to do that. Don't underestimate or don't undersell just how much corporate knowledge will be walking out that door if and when they change this Australian team up. It'll be the team of Mitchell Marsh. It'll be the team of Travis Head. It'll be the team of Generation Next playing under those two senior men. It'll be interesting to watch because, you know, we've seen how crucial the IPL's been to the development of someone like Travis Head in this form of the game in the last season, especially having not played for a while. Glenn Maxwell, we said before, whether he plays again, it's to be determined. But, you know, it's been the IPL. It's been this tournament that's been the breeding ground to take them to the next level, and we've seen that from Head. And the shot that stood out from him today for me wasn't any of his muscling balls straight over the rope. It was that wristy cut shot where he had to get the ball between two men, both at backward point and short third, and he bisected them with the most glorious piece of timing and placement and skill. And, you know, again, a reminder that as we've seen Rohit today shift into gears that we don't often see, Travis Head's got that kind of range as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he can grow into as the top dog in this team when David Warner retires soon enough from the white ball formats.
Yeah, it will be that next generation, I suppose. And they'll be interested to see what happens with this Indian side afterwards as well. But they're roaring on, and they look incredibly powerful. And Australia have a very nervous wait to see if they can scrape through, and it would be a pretty unsatisfying scrape through if they have to do it based on Bangladesh knocking over Afghanistan and getting through with 1 win out of 3 in the group. So they were given a hiding, they were given a lesson today, I think, and everything that we've said about India and the completeness of that team earlier seems to be being borne out. But look, it's 1,000,000 degrees here. It's hot. You can tell that I'm like sweating down the barrel of the camera. I think that's it. I think that's good. We've got one more game to go in the Super 8s, and that will decide the last place.
There'll be a second episode of The Final Word on day 24 out that deals with the Afghanistan-Bangladesh game. Who knows? It will ultimately determine who goes through to the semi-finals. Geoff with you for that later on tonight. I'm Adam Collins. Please download the Westfield app. You may as well. You get yourself a chance to go to Sixers on Westfield's dime this week with 3 of your mates. It'll be delightful. Don't miss out. Do it right away. And yes, it's India going to the Final Four. Australia, probably not. Good night from us.
Good night.